Ever notice that on a particularly rough day, you might instinctively reach for that comfort food as soon as you get home? Maybe a big bowl of ice cream or, pizza.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of temporary release, that sort of moment of comfort, eh, yeah, so many of us can relate to.
Right. And this powerful emotional connection between what we eat and how we feel, it's often something deeply ingrained, isn't it? Often a learned response.
Exactly.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into this fascinating world of the food-mood connection. We're exploring how the foods we choose don't just affect our physical health, but our mental and emotional well-being, too.
Right. And our mission with this deep dive is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from the sources we've looked at. We'll look at the latest research findings, try to understand their nuances and limitations, and hopefully equip you with practical, actionable strategies for eating well, even when life feels, well, incredibly challenging.
Okay, so to start, we'll unpack this idea of a vicious circle where stress and diet kind of intertwine, affecting everything from inflammation to our emotional state. Then we'll explore what current studies are revealing about nutrition's impact on symptoms of depression and anxiety. And there are some crucial distinctions there between general symptoms and diagnosed conditions.
And maybe the most intriguing part, we'll dive into the surprising role your gut plays in your mood. It connects some really ancient wisdom about food's healing powers to, well, modern science. Plus, we'll offer a whole bunch of practical, empathetic tips for nourishing yourself when maybe your mood isn't at its best.
So let's dive deeper into that initial idea. What do the numbers actually tell us about people's awareness of this food-mood link? According to some U.S. surveys in our sources, a pretty significant majority, like three-quarters of Americans, believe their diet impacts their mental and emotional well-being.
Hmm.
And conversely, their emotional state impacts their food choices. Yet it seems like we often struggle to really connect those dots day to day.
Yeah, it's fascinating how deeply ingrained these responses often are. Often through learned behavior, like you said. If you experience, say, a lessening of anxiety after eating a certain food, well, you're motivated to repeat that behavior, right? It
Yeah.
creates this powerful emotional loop between food, stress, and mood.
And what's really compelling is seeing how this plays out across different generations. We're seeing Gen Z and millennials who, despite maybe being more aware of this link, also report historically high levels of stress.
Right.
And this can drive them towards less healthy choices, influenced by big life changes like puberty or leaving home for college, maybe issues with body image, less parental oversight, or even economic factors pushing them towards, more packaged, highly processed foods.
And this cycle is truly vicious because stress and nutrition are just so tightly interwoven. Changes in either one can trigger inflammation that affects the immune system. That can potentially lead to digestive issues, weight gain, which just, feeds back into the cycle.
The good news, though, is that it is absolutely possible to break this cycle. However, just knowing you're a stressed or emotional eater often isn't quite enough to stop the behavior, is it?
No, it really takes practice. And being kind of cognizant of your actions, a conscious effort to change those ingrained habits.
So that raises a crucial question. What tools can actually help us disrupt this pattern?
Well, our sources highlight things like counseling and behavioral therapy as effective ways. They help you learn new responses to stress. Things like maybe going for a walk or calling a friend instead of automatically turning to food.
Okay, so moving beyond our own experiences, what does the actual data reveal about diet and mood? Let's get into the studies on diet and depression symptoms first. What's really striking is looking at these robust studies, particularly a 2017 meta-analysis, which is basically a study of studies pooling data for stronger evidence.
Right. A powerful tool.
Yeah. It evaluated 21 studies from 10 different countries, and it found that a dietary pattern rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, olive oil, low-fat dairy, antioxidants, and importantly, low animal food intake. This whole pattern was consistently associated with a reduced risk of depression.
Okay.
Conversely, a diet high in red or processed meat and low in fruits and vegetables was linked to an increased risk.
And that pattern really seems to hold up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There was another meta-analysis in 2019 looking at 16 independent studies. It revealed that nutrition interventions significantly reduced symptoms of depression compared to control groups. That sounds incredibly promising.
It really does. And then there's the Specific Smiles trial. It was a 12-week study where one group got 7 individual nutrition counseling sessions.
Hmm.
They found that depression symptoms were significantly reduced in that group. And interestingly, these effects were independent of changes in BMI body mass index or smoking rates or physical activity.
So it wasn't just about weight loss or other lifestyle changes making the difference.
Exactly. It pointed more directly to the dietary changes themselves.
What's also noteworthy is a more recent study connecting frequent fruit consumption to reduce depression symptoms and sort of more positive psychological well-being.
Mm.
But on the flip side, frequent consumption of savory snacks, think chips, crisps, that sort of thing, was associated with increased symptoms of depression, stress, anxiety, and generally poorer psychological well-being.
Okay, so let's shift focus a bit to anxiety. One study looked at older adults. It found a consistent link between higher anxiety levels and diets containing more saturated fats and added sugars.
Right. And if we bring this back to the wider context, there was a big 2021 review. It assessed over 1,500 studies, though mainly animal models. It showed kind of mixed results for a Western-style diet, high in processed foods, unhealthy fats, refined sugars, and anxiety in animals.
Okay, so not totally clear in animals.
Not entirely clear there. However, the human observational studies generally did find associations between lower levels of anxiety and healthy diet patterns. Things like the Mediterranean diet, traditional diets, vegetarian diets, anti-inflammatory diets, even just regular breakfast consumption, and increased dietary variety.
Okay, so there seems to be a pattern emerging from the human studies, at least. Now, to really get a handle on this, it's important we talk about the limitations of these studies. While the results seem promising, what are some of the critical nuances we need to keep in mind here?
Yeah, that's a really critical point. It's kind of the chicken and egg problem of mood and diet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Many of these studies found associations between diet and symptoms, but they don't necessarily demonstrate a direct cause and effect.
Right. Correlation doesn't equal causation.
Exactly. It's entirely possible that other factors, maybe lower socioeconomic status, for example, could influence the results.
Hmm.
Or it's possible that people ate a diet higher in unhealthy fats and sugars because they were already anxious or depressed, rather than the other way around.
So the mood could be driving the diet, not just the diet driving the mood.
Precisely. And while that SMILE study we mentioned was promising, its findings really need to be replicated in larger, longer studies to confirm the effects. And it's crucial to note, most of these studies looked at symptoms of depression and anxiety in generally healthy people, not specifically in individuals with clinical diagnoses.
Okay, that's a key distinction.
It is. So it's still unclear if diet alone would produce similar reductions in symptoms for someone with a diagnosed disorder.
So with all that complexity in mind, it's not a simple fix, but one really fascinating angle that keeps coming up is the gut.
Mm.
The ancient world actually had some surprising insights here that modern science is now starting to validate.
Yeah, as many people probably know, the Mediterranean diet, fruits, vegetables, legumes, olive oil, fish, it consistently shows up as a powerhouse for overall health, including a lowered risk for depression. And this idea isn't new at all.
That's right. The physician Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine, was actually one of the first to suggest that food could have healing powers. In fact, the word diet itself comes from the Greek word dieta, which meant something closer to lifestyle or way of life, much broader than just food.
And today we know something quite remarkable. Around 90% of serotonin, a key mood regulator, and other important neurotransmitters are actually produced right there in your gut.
Wow, 90%.
90%. So this means nutrition and diet are increasingly seen as important to psychiatry as they are to, cardiology or endocrinology or any other system.
So how do we actively nourish that vital gut-brain connection for potentially better mood? What can we do?
Well, one key way is through fermented foods, things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. These contain live probiotics, those beneficial bacteria we hear about.
Okay.
And here's the crucial link. Those good bacteria need food too, right? They thrive on prebiotics.
Yeah.
These are specific types of fiber found in foods like oats, bananas, onions, garlic, asparagus.
So fiber is key.
Fiber is definitely key. When those beneficial bacteria digest these prebiotic fibers, they produce compounds, short-chain fatty acids, and others that directly contribute to producing those mood-regulating neurotransmitters right there in the gut.
Fascinating. And another mood-food connection known even to the ancient world is the power of herbs and spices.
Absolutely. This includes things like curcumin, which is the active compound in turmeric. Studies suggest it can help with depression symptoms. Then there's rosemary and black pepper, which seem to have antidepressant effects in some research. And lemon balm, the Greeks and Romans used it to treat stress and insomnia.
Huh.
Also, things like holy basil, American ginseng, and sage may also help reduce stress, according to some traditions and preliminary research.
It's amazing how some of these ancient remedies are now being looked at scientifically, but I guess with so many things touting antidepressant effects, how do we distinguish between something that genuinely helps with symptoms versus, say, a placebo effect or maybe something more substantial?
That's an excellent point, and it really comes back to the nuances of the research we discussed. While these compounds show